Welcome everybody to FGI TV. I'm Jeff Bergerson. My screen name is JT Bergerson on daily fantasy sites. We're with FantasyGolfInsider.com. As always, I'm joined by my partner, Zach Turcott. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, we have someone else with us this week. Actually, we have Pari from Project Roto, who was kind enough to join us this week. Welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're into Zach's stash of booze this week because he's actually in San Diego and we're here, and I think the temperature difference is about like 70 degrees.
At least.
So, Zachary, we're going to take advantage of your expensive liquor tonight.
Thanks, Zach.
Pari is joining us, and as I said with Project Roto, they still have their special running for Moosenomics. Want to tell us a little bit about that?
It's the spreadsheet that Moose has been throwing out for the past 4, 5, 6 months. Right now the promo is Moose. Type that in and it gets you Moosenomics basically for $1.82 a week for the rest of the year.
So I'd recommend you check them out too. Obviously we're in the same business together, but they're a bunch of good guys and we enjoy conversing with them and bouncing things off them. So, and they're kind enough to join us. So Pari's here tonight and Moose was here a couple months ago when I was out. So we thank you for coming.
Yeah,
we appreciate that. Yeah. So as I said, please check us out at FantasyGolfInsider.com. I recommend you become a premium member. We got tons of great information on there. If you want to become a successful and profitable fantasy golf player, we have the tools necessary to do that. This broadcast is also available as a podcast on iTunes. If you want to check that out, please do. And if you do, if you could give us a good review, we would appreciate that. It would help a lot. Also, please subscribe to us on YouTube as well. Before we get to this week's event, let's recap the Hyundai a little bit. I heard from a lot of our members who did really well. We hit a lot of recommendations right on the head. A couple of you who let us know you did really well this week included Mark Mercado, Nick Mosca, Jeff Townsend, Fantasy Golf Mom, and Ryan Cook. And I saw several other tweets today that I just didn't have a chance to put on here, but congrats to everybody who had nice weeks last week. That's really excellent. Hyundai Tournament of Champions last week. Jordan Spieth, the man, the myth, the legend, crushes the field.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Good.
Is this guy he's good at golf, right?
He's good. Yeah.
Is this guy stoppable this year, or what's going to happen?
I don't think so. His run last year was pretty amazing, and he's starting it on the same foot. There's really nothing more to say about that.
He was amazing, and on the greens he was making putts, and he's just a solid all-around player. He looked great. One of the things that struck me about last week was the ownership on DraftKings and the percentages. Now we project on our ownership prediction tool every week what we think the ownership's going to be like. Well, we missed on several guys last week. The biggest was probably Brooks Koepka, who has been the most popular guy in just about every tournament he plays in. He was under-owned, and he was owned in, I want to say, 13% of the field, which shocked us last week. Now, he did have a change of clubs, and he hasn't been playing extremely well, but is there anything else that we can account for that low ownership?
I honestly think that it was all the hype with the clubs.
It was the hype.
Mm-hmm. And again, like you and I were talking about beforehand, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors with these guys, and you really got to sift through the smoke and find out what's what.
It was crazy. So, and the other thing is the top 5 guys who were priced were also well below what we thought as well. And I think part of the reason is there just weren't that many options down below that people were comfortable with.
I know, I wasn't.
You know, and if it forced you to get guys who you really didn't want, people dropped down to the next tier of guys and ignored, well, Spieth. But I think Day was owned by like 10% in the $3 and in the $300 as well, which is crazy for Jason Day. Now he's been off, and I didn't expect him to come out blazing. I thought there would be some rust, and there was.
Right.
But I recommended Spieth, and I was high on him because this guy is good. He takes his game seriously. He has been playing. He's got good current form, and I just felt like this was a good course for him, and it paid off, and I got him at 10%.
Yeah, I believe he finished third last year at this tournament, maybe even
second 2 years ago. Yep.
So he's got a good feel for the course.
He does.
He's a bomber. He's a good putter. He's a proximity iron player.
Yep.
Again, kind of like Spieth.
Yep.
He's at the top of his game right now.
Yep.
And it showed that he had a little bit of rust right away, but he finished with the top 10 and he's moving on.
I think the other thing to account for the ownership is it was just such a small field, and there just weren't that many options to go off of. So people bound toward the middle a little bit, I think, is another reason. This week will be a little bit different. We're back to full field, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But any other thoughts about last week's Hyundai? Any other surprises?
Patrick Reed.
Patrick Reed's legit.
He is. It's nice to see him back up a win with the second place.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's been playing as good as anybody in the world over the past 3 months.
Yep.
A lot of the novices and inexperienced guys who aren't playing a lot of golf or weren't in the fall didn't know about his worldwide success, but he's been tearing it up for a few months now.
Yeah. I like Patrick Reed. I like his bravado.
I do too.
How he plays.
He rubs people wrong.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it too. I think he's good for the game of golf.
Yep, he's got some swag to him. He's a bit of a dink, but it's not a bad thing.
No, not at all. Golf needs that.
I agree. So I'm a Reed guy. I know a lot of other people don't agree with that, but and I'd like to see a form of rivalry with Spieth. I think that'd be cool, kind of the hero-villain type deal.
Yeah, in my my write-up that didn't get published last week, I wrote him up as the villain. So
nice. Well, that's last week. Let's look toward next week. But without further ado,
let's get into this.
Let's get into the Don Julio, courtesy of Zach.
Thanks, Zach.
The first one is going to be a congratulatory shot of the week, and we were just talking about him, Jordan Spieth. Obviously, 30 under par, had no round worse than 6 under, which is just sick. No matter where you're playing. He gained almost 2 full shots on the field in strokes gained putting.
Jeez.
Won by 8 strokes, scored 166 DraftKings points. Hit the bonus for every round under 70. Dude's a stud.
Yeah, I call him Spieth Almighty.
Right. Yeah, and he's always got the right things to say, too. He never offends anyone in any interviews. And it's just like, are you ever going to slip, dude?
He's literally the golden boy right now.
Yeah. So, first shot of the night.
Cheers.
There you go. Cheers. Jordan Spieth, that's the good shot. Now comes the next shot, which wasn't so impressive. And that's going to go to our guys, James Hahn and J.J. Henry. All right, and you're teeing it up again. That's nice. Give me a little, I'll try some of that too. In a week where another human being shot 30 under, these guys shot 3 over par. On one of the probably easiest courses on the planet, I would say, and certainly that these PGA guys see all year. They shot 3 over par. I think I can score on the par 5s there.
Yep.
So, and you said you played there.
Yes, and I did score on the par 5.
You scored on the par 5s. Hahn shot 76s in the first 2 rounds.
He's a professional golfer?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was sick or injured or what he was doing. He responded a little bit better the second 2, but that's just awful. They were both 7 strokes behind the next worst golfer, 51-year-old Davis Love III.
Hey, props to Davis Love.
Yeah, right. No, I didn't mention these guys out of spite. I'm not bitter. I didn't recommend them. I didn't roster them or anything. I just think it was a little bit crazy how poorly they played on a really easy course.
I agree. I didn't have any interest in Davis Love, J.J. Henry. I was kind of turned off by Fabian, but I figured the opposite was in play with him, and it kind of worked out that way.
Yep. And it actually worked out so that if you had Spieth or one of the big guys, there were some good options down below, it turns out, at the end. I mean, Gomez was down there. Patty Harrington played well. Peter Malnati, Smiley Kaufman, all of these guys way outperformed their price. So. And
rookies typically haven't done well there, so that was nice to see that those guys showed up.
Yep. A lot of people liked the Peter Malnati recommendation last week that we were on. So he performed well, luckily for us. So yeah, JJ Henry.
Cheers to terrible golf, I guess.
Oh, that's some good tequila.
It's good stuff.
I like that. We'll finish that off. We'll be here all night, Zachary. So we're not leaving. We're just going to keep drinking your booze.
Yeah, there's a nice couch for me to sleep on.
We mentioned last week that we have a new contest now. It's called Wacky Wagers, and we got a huge response from it this week. So we're liking it where we put up a piece of our swag versus whatever people submit, and we got some real good ones. The first contestant in our Wacky Wager contest is going to be someone you may know, Pat Mayo. And he put up a picture of himself. So
do you guys even have anything that's worth that much?
No, we don't. We're gonna have to have something else made to try and equal.
Might have to give him the store.
Just free reign on the store. Order whatever you want. It's a shopping spree for like a couple minutes.
Exactly.
So, he's willing to risk that self-portrait, so we'll take it, Pat. And you got a deal. So Zach will go head-to-head against Pat on DraftKings this week. Winner take all, and I hope we can don that portrait on our set here.
I can't wait to see that sweat show.
It's going to be good. Good luck, Pat. Now, we said we're only going to do one of these per week, but actually someone else submitted an item that I really want, so it's week one. We're breaking the rules already. I don't give a damn. It's our show. We can do whatever we want to do. So this one comes from Adam Scott Howard, who is putting up his Quagmire head cover. And I like this thing, so check out this picture. To win an FGI shirt, we'll take you on too, Adam, this week. We'll do both, and hopefully we can win that as well. So we'll be sending you a link to a head-to-head contest. You can be part of Wacky Wagers as well. Anyone else who wants to submit anything that they want to put up against our stuff, we'll be happy to do that. So, on to some golf. Let's talk this week. Sony Open, still in Hawaii. Guys aren't going anywhere. Really tough to be a professional golfer, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to hop islands.
I hate to be in paradise right now.
Right, 80 degrees. Here. Right. Well, they got to go all the way to Oahu because they were on Maui. So, the course is Wailea Country Club. Par 70. Last week was par 73, so that's different. It's also a much shorter course. It's 7,044 yards. The key stats that we came up this week with our strokes gained tee to green, par 4 scoring. Guys are going to need to make up a lot of ground on the par 4s. Par 5 scoring should be automatic. Guys are going to have to score on the par 5s. The people who have had success always score on the par 5s. All of the par 3s are between 175 and 203 yards, I believe. So we can just look at proximity for guys, or birdie or better percentage between 175 and 200, and get specific with the par 3 scoring there. Finally, greens and regulation are also going to be important. You got anything else? Any other stats that you want to throw in?
Well, as far as Moosenomics goes, I like to use the good drive percentage. I feel that is a better stat than driving accuracy. Okay. Just because, you can smoke the ball and be a yard off the fairway and still have a good shot. So you're getting docked on the driving accuracy, but you're still sitting just fine. Right. So I like to use that. And I also like to use par 3 scoring as a way to find those guys that you don't typically look at. So I'll look at, the top 50 in par 3 scoring. Okay. But depending on the field too. Like this week, we've got a lot of guys that are in the top 50. Right. So maybe I'll extend that to like top 75, top 100. Okay. And look at their actual scoring performance on those holes. If it's, right around par, I'm not really going to put too much into that. But if they're, 2.5 on par 3, I think that's a good stat to look at. Okay. What kind of percentage are you going to put on stats this week? How are you going to divvy it up? I typically like to do par 4 and par 5 scoring similar, probably 10 to 20%. Okay. Par 3, I'll throw in 6 or 7 just to separate, from what I'm seeing as far as if I had 0 in there. Right. Greens and regulation is always heavy just because you have to hit the ball on the green. Yep. And you have to give yourself a shot at birdie. Okay. And then birdie or better percentage is always pretty high too. Okay. All right. It sounds pretty similar. We have a new model on our site. If you haven't checked it out, please do so. It's a great tool. We've got a lot of good feedback from it. It's similar to Moosenomics. We put our weighting on the stats and the current form and the history, whatever we feel is appropriate, but it's also interactive so that you can put whatever weighting you want to put on there.
and go with your opinion as well. So check that out. It's on our site. It's under our model under the tools section. Let's take a look at DraftKings prices this week. It just came out a few hours ago, so we haven't had a tremendous amount of time to look at it. Briefly looking at the top tier, though, Perry, what are you seeing jumps out at you right away?
Jimmy Walker is overpriced.
Okay.
You're basically paying for Jordan Spieth. Mm-hmm. And last time I checked, Jimmy Walker is not Jordan Spieth.
He is not Jordan Spieth, no.
He did have 29 birdies last year at this tournament.
Yep.
So
two-time defending champ.
Two-time defending champ. Good for him. I don't see him three-peating.
Okay. All right.
So, I mean, you could play him. There's plenty of players to throw in to make a Jimmy Walker lineup.
Yeah.
If I'm throwing 100, 9% maybe.
Okay. All right.
Just ballpark. I don't like that price tag.
He's got to place in the top 3 to pay off his price basically this week, and it's going to be tough. Mm-hmm. He does play well in Hawaii, obviously, but like you said, he's not Jordan Spieth. I was high on him last week, but he was 8K. He was kind of middle of the field, and I like him there. Did he play great last week? Not really. He had one spectacular round, but overall, he didn't look like the normal Jimmy Walker. He's been working with Butch Harmon. I agree with you. I won't be touching him in cash games, and I won't have a high percentage of them. I'm just going to fade him. I think I'm going to fade probably most of the top tier guys. Yep. The guy who I like most in that group is probably Kevin Kisner, just because he's just been rock solid. His current form is so good. But at 11,700,
right?
That's
you're paying a lot. You're paying a lot for Kevin Kisner,
right? But
you're going to get a low ownership.
I think so too this week. Yep. And also the pricing's pretty tough this week.
It is.
That top group stretches down. So Graham McDowell at 10,100. Any interest in Graham after last week's?
Can I open up this garbage can over here? It's bad. God, if he was 8K, I'd give him a little look.
Okay.
But no thanks.
I'm just never high on Graham McDowell overall. I mean, he had a couple great appearances in the fall, had a terrible 2015 overall, and actually he was pretty highly owned last week.
He was.
Zach thought he was going to be lowly owned. He was actually pretty high owned.
He was the highest owned in our one and done with Coach Esser.
Yeah, that's right. He was. Yep.
I got a rule with Graham. It's don't play him unless it's an RBC event.
Right. That's fair.
That's just me.
Yep. Another guy who stuck out that I don't really like is Mark Leishman at 10,500, just because I think the price tag's too high on him.
I agree.
I don't get that. He's surrounded by a couple guys who I do like. I do like Kevin Na. I don't love 10,600, but I do like Kevin Na. I like him on this course a lot. And Russell Henley, who has had obvious success in this tournament before. He can putt. He's a consistent make the cut type guy. Any interest in either one of those guys, or
Absolutely.
Are you looking elsewhere?
Russell Henley is actually the first guy I wrote up this week.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, sweet.
Basically because of his putting.
Yep.
And obviously, his history in Hawaii is a great additive to that. But he's not really a proximity player, but he's a great putter. He's great at birdieing. I mean, obviously those two go hand in hand, but he's a bomber too.
Yeah.
And he can get away with, some awkward lies and whatnot just because he hits the ball so far.
He's a GPP guy because he can go on huge runs and put together really streaky performances. But last year he became a cash game guy too because of his consistency in making the cuts.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what we get out of Henley this year. If it's both or if he's putting them together and really becoming a force on the tour.
I hope he is. He plays well in California too, so he'll be on my radar for the next couple weeks.
The one thing that we noticed, and we've looked at years past, is the success that guys have had who have played in the Hyundai and then played immediately at Sony, and it's pretty amazing how good that is. So we're kind of looking closely at guys who played last week, and even guys who played last week and played well. And a couple of those guys include, if you drop down, I mentioned before, like Fabian Gomez at 7,200, Stephen Bowditch at 7,000. I think those are reasonable plays this week on guys that I normally wouldn't be into, but I think that's a pretty good price for those guys.
I agree. Fabian Gomez, of all people, I'm not really a big Fabian Gomez guy.
I don't know if
that might shock you.
I don't know who is,
but he's been rattling off some pretty decent finishes. 6th last week, 44th at the RSM.
He had 2 top 20s in the fall.
2 top 20s in the fall.
Yep.
He didn't play well. I mean, he played well in the playoffs. He just didn't make it to the end.
Yep.
And then he had that run of missed cuts right after his win. But I mean, how would you play after you got your first win?
Yeah, right. I might not come back. I don't know.
Exactly. So yeah, I like Gomez. Not sure if I like him for cash.
Yeah.
Probably just a GPP throw-in.
Right.
No. There's a couple other guys in that similar price range that I like other than him for cash.
Okay, what are you thinking?
David Hearn.
David Hearn. Okay, tell me.
Statistically, he's great.
Okay.
Let me just pull this up here.
And he's at, what'd you say, 7K?
He's at 7K.
Okay, all right.
27th in strokes gained putting, 13th in total putting, 11th in 3-putt avoidance, and 59th in good drive percentage. He's also 35th in par 3 scoring and 34th in par 4 scoring.
Okay.
So not a guy that you're going to see high ownership on, which is nice.
Right.
But he makes cuts.
Yep.
And clearly he plays well on par 3s and par 4s.
Yeah, and he's been in contention often over the past year. He can never close it out.
Right.
He doesn't have that clutch gene, but hey, if you get a top 5 from a guy who's 7K.
Even a top 10.
Yeah, even a top 10 is good. So, all right. So you're going Hearn.
I'm going Hearn.
Now, how about in the middle of that mess? Between, let's say, 7 and 10, there's a few guys who jump out to me. Actually, the guy who I think is going to be probably heavily owned this week, or heaviest owned, is Tony Finau at 8,300. I don't know. I think I will roster him in cash, but GPP, he's going to be very highly owned. He might be a decent fade with the equipment change, right?
Yep, absolutely.
He just
Nike.
got the name. Now, it worked for Brooks last week.
Yeah, it did.
But
he fell apart towards the end, too.
As Brooks tends to do.
At least he didn't change his feathers.
We've witnessed Brooks melt down in person, so it's not a pretty sight.
Right.
And he melted down, thus we melted down at Deutsche Bank. Couple other names in there. Jason Duffner at 7,900 seems like a reasonable cash game play.
Yep.
Will Wilcox, Thrill, is a very popular DFS guy, so I expect him to be pretty heavily owned at 9,000.
Yeah, he's my number 1 guy this week.
Is he really?
Yep.
Okay.
As far as how I've adjusted Moosenomics, he's number 1 with and without any kind of course history percentage or current form.
Okay. He had some good outings this fall. He missed 1 cut, and he had a withdrawal. And he just withdrew because it was raining so damn much.
Right.
Where was that? Is that at...
where was it?
Was that Sanderson or somewhere else? I can't remember where that was. It just rained every day. And he actually wasn't out of it, and he just decided to withdraw. I think it was the event before Mayakoba.
Yeah, it was. I don't have that on my sheet here.
But so he withdrew, so you'll see withdrawal next to his name. Don't put too much stock into that because he was in contention.
Right, and he also tweeted to the DFS public the following week saying he wouldn't withdraw in Mexico, I believe it was. So.
Yep. Now he can't do that, right?
No, he can't. He can't interact with DFSers anymore. Yeah. Yeah. And
PGA Tour, thank you very little.
What is the punishment on that? Are they going to make an example out of him, or?
I don't know. The PGA is just, I don't understand their reasoning. They've seen what it's done for football.
Right.
What do they think is the reason that all the ratings on the PGA events are up on TV?
Well, there's that Jordan guy.
What? The Jordan guy, but he doesn't play all the crappy events.
No, but he plays a lot of tournaments.
He does, but we'll see this week. I mean, every event in the fall they said was up in viewership, and he didn't play very much on the PGA Tour. So there's something to this DFS thing, and
absolutely,
eventually we'll get through to the PGA Tour. Anyone else in that middle range that piques your interest at all?
Luke Donald's Vegas odds, as opposed to where he's priced, seem off to me.
Okay.
He's not a statistical fit, but it's Luke Donald. He's got the pedigree. His game was turning around last year.
Yep.
And then he kind of ran out of tournaments. He didn't play the fall events, and I don't know. I can't ignore something like that.
Okay, all right. I'm not on Luke Donald. I don't like Luke Donald.
I don't like him either. I'll be honest with you. I don't like playing him.
I don't know that I've ever rostered Luke Donald. Oh yes, I did at the Canadian Open. I think I rostered him,
and he finished like 70th or something. Like that.
Yeah, that's right.
I was there too.
I can't figure out why I don't like him.
RBC event.
Right,
RBC
right.
guy.
That's true. That's true. Couple other guys that I'll just throw out. I like Peter Malnati a little bit again this week.
Yep.
He performed last week for us well, and I think coming off that last week, he's got some momentum. Patton Kazire as a GPP option. He's got the firepower. He's also got some pretty large downside as well. So I don't think I'm going to have any of them in cash, but and I don't think a lot of the majority of people who are coming into golf now as football phases out know guys like Patton Kazire or Peter Malnati or guys like that, Emiliano Grillo.
No, and all those guys are good plays, I think, this week. Kazire's a little expensive.
Yeah, he is. He's more than I thought he was
for the results that he's provided recently, but I like him. I think he's got reasonable upside at his price.
Absolutely. I actually like some guys down in the $6,000 range. Now, call me crazy.
You're crazy.
But there's some consistency down there.
If you say Brandon DeJong, I'm walking out of here.
I said consistency.
Oh, okay.
No, he's not one of them. But there's some guys down there who are making a lot of cuts or did in the fall that are piquing my interest. One of those is Chez Reavie at 6,100. He made every cut in the fall. The ass man, Tyrone, right? He made every cut as well. And who else did I notice down there? Spencer Levine had a good fall.
Yeah,
so,
he did.
He's actually played pretty reasonably well at this course. His tournament history is not outstanding, but he's been in the 20s, 30s, and 40s every year he's played. I heard that he was a smoker, and he quit smoking before the fall, and I don't know if that had any impact on his results, but
statistics show that you quit smoking, you're healthier, so
you're better at golf.
Yeah.
So he's another name. Who down there in that range are you high on this week?
This might shock you. Dowie Vanderwalt.
Okay.
And I'm not joking. I'm not joking
all right,
at all.
That's fine. Give me some rationale.
So right now, he is 5th on my rankings. He's got a 58th, a 17th, and a 33rd this year, which, whatever. I mean, if he's making the cut at 5,700, you're happy.
Yep, absolutely.
Statistics now. We're looking at putting average, he's 41st.
Okay.
Total driving, he's 29th.
Yep.
Total bombing, he's 18th. That's a little stat that Moose and I put together.
Okay.
I can't tell you.
You can't tell us what it entails?
No. It's like the secret recipe.
All right.
Screech's
Fair
secret
enough.
recipe.
All right.
Just salt and pepper. Just salt and pepper.
Oh, Jesus. He's a ball striker, which never would have guessed that. He's 7th in ball striking.
All right.
He's 3rd in greens and regulation.
Okay.
That to me is enough at 5,700 to get on board. If I'm trying to squeeze 2 top price guys into my squad, I think Dowie's going to be the third guy.
There were actually in the fall, I noticed this, that there were a few guys who had him on their rosters. Were you one of them?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, all right. So you were one of them. All right, I'll buy into it. I'll do a little bit more digging and see if
I'll
can
give you one
get on
more.
board. All right.
I'll give you one more. 7th in birdie or better.
Okay.
And 1st in bogey avoidance. Are you on board?
Yeah.
Right. Gotcha.
I'll throw them on one GPP.
All right, that
works. Yeah. Anyone else down there?
I mean, we can throw some chalk into this too with Pat Perez at 6,500.
Yeah, he's been very, very good at this tournament in the past, and on the West Coast in general, the start of the year. Now, he was god-awful over the past few months.
Yeah.
Does that worry you at all, or do you think he can just snap right back into
Well, have you seen his mullet?
Yeah, I have.
He's got a pretty impressive mullet.
Okay.
So I think, it flows a little bit better in Hawaii.
All right.
And he carries that on to California.
If you notice, there's probably a dozen Asian Tour players in the field this week. So what I did in my preview article, which will go up I highlighted their current form on the Asian Tour, each of these Asian players, because nobody is going to know who in the world they are, and their names kind of blend together. So if you want, there are a couple decent sleepers in that bunch of Asian Tour guys who have a legit chance, and I would throw on a couple GPPs. So I highlighted them in my preview. And so check out the website and check out that to get a synopsis of that. But I think that's an opportunity as well, because there are a couple decent guys in that group.
I couldn't speak to that. I have no idea.
Fair enough.
I'm more concerned with how Robert Allenby got welcome back.
Yeah. Why don't we go to the tournament and just walk along, and when he fires his caddy, we can pick up his bag.
Or we can follow him to the local winery and
Make sure he gets home safe.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe his wallet will jump into our hands.
Right, that's right. So, anyone else you want to touch on?
What do you think about Matt Every this week?
I think he's Matt Every. Right. And unless it's Bay Hill, I have zero interest.
Likewise.
And hell, I don't even know if I got interest in Bay Hill. I might just let him do it to me again.
If he's 6K at Bay Hill, I'll throw him on one team.
You'll do it?
One team.
God, it's unbelievable.
Well, you know
see
what?
this
He'll
year.
probably be 8,500.
Yeah, he
he's
might be.
Two-time defending champ.
Right.
Or maybe he's 12-2, like Jimmy Walker.
That could be. So that's all we got for this week's show. Be sure to check out Pari with Project Roto. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
It was a good time,
Absolutely.
as always. Be sure to shoot us a tweet. We're at Fantasy Golfers. Email us at info@fantasygolfinsider.com. Ask us questions. Zach usually does Periscope on Wednesday nights, so you can check him out on Periscope. Otherwise, good luck this week for the Sony Open, and we'll see you next week. My finger this week, Blair Walsh.